What do you think happens after we die? I personally think ceasing to live is the most powerful trip a human being gets to experience. An acid trip probably pales in comparison. If I'm not mistaken, brains ramp up the output of various chemicals when we die. I've always wondered if cremation destroys this natural process and therefore afterlife, assuming afterlife is a product of said process. Any thoughts related are welcomed. What happens afterwards? Nobody knows. Life itself is so bizarre, complex, absurd and unfathomable that an outcome as simple as nothing happens is unlikely. I'm not siding with atheists on this one. My family is upset for a little while. Hopefully they cremate me and don't do a service since I'm not religious. Have a party if they want. Then they'll realize that I have a shitload of money in insurance policies, 401 kiloseconds IRA letters, investments and HYSA letters, and they don't ever have to work again if they don't want. If you're asking about afterlife, there is none. Once our brain is dead, that's it for us. There is not spirit or soul. That's just something people made up because they didn't understand how things worked. Raindrops from the sea, falling hopelessly since birth, return to their source. In seriousness, what I believe is hard to describe. It is akin to reincarnation, but that implies a single indivisible soul that pops into and out of mortal bodies. It would be more reasonable to say that the universe is consciousness. What happens to the raindrop when it crashes back to Earth? It loses its form, but there is always rain, always water, never the same twice, but forever churning. Life of some kind. And that the soul is something more than biological processes, and there's such a thing as being in spirit, and that we are meant for a journey past this plane once we pass away. I also believe a spirit can get stuck to a specific place or person, ghosts, but they should move on when they are ready. I grew up very Christian and as an adult have more neo-pagan beliefs, so my thoughts on the afterlife are a bit of a mix between those. For the people closest to me, life will feel very different for a while. For people who kind of know me, there will be momentary surprise or sadness. For people who don't know me, life will go on in pretty much the same way as ever, which will feel upsetting to my partner and my kids. For me, I will cease to care since I'll be dead. Hopefully I'll be cremated and scattered along the ashes of my dogs and late wife, but I'll never know because I'll be dead. Besides, your body hopefully decomposing the same as that was happening before you were conceived, while you're dying is much more interesting. This is when DMT is released and you start to trip. Unfortunately, this is why some really nice people who think they are going to hell anyways, friends. Grandma rear-ended a car in the 70s that was her deathbed confession, start scream and get scared. Religion has ruined what could have been a lovely passing. I've come close to death a lot of times. So lots of people have asked me this question. I'm a major skeptic, and I'm not very spiritual, so I just think nothing happens. We completely cease to exist. There's no ability to feel anything good or bad. I don't find this morbid. The idea of living forever sounds exhausting for me. Slight spoilers, but that's why I think T Good Place has the perfect ending. I have a weird belief where I think our soul or our being goes back to this big bubble where all the other souls are. They sort of all mix together. And then when you are born, part of that bubble reaches out again, but with bits of different souls that have been in humans before. None of this is experienced by us in any way we understand now. But when you die, you do get it. This is just my own made-up theory. You die, yet are made into something new, reborn millions of times. Matter can't be created or destroyed. The matter that was you will begin to be integrated by other forms of life. In essence, your death now becomes fuel for other forms of life. You are reborn as that life. In a sense, as what you consumed while you lived became you. It is the cycle of life, where death is merely passing the torch of life. I've always liked to think you get access to a database of how your life impacted others. Almost like a hard drive of files, videos. You can go through and replay scenarios and see things from others' perspectives of how you were perceived. Maybe if you have more good impacts on others than bad, you go to what could be interpreted as heaven and reunite with family and loved ones who have already died. A tall guy with a beard gives you a white gown, a harp, and a fluffy cloud to sit on, depending on how much money you donated to religion and how good you were to your friends, family, and colleagues determines the size of the cloud and the material of the gown. However, since things like bugs, flies, maggots, etc. have no soul, Ray fucked. Sleep to be revived again on another planet similar to Earth with atmosphere viable for life makes sense scientifically, since everything recycles, and we all are organic material. But that wait can be long, like eternity. But I won't have to experience that wait, as I would be beyond time and space, just like when I am every day when I sleep. At the so-called light in the tunnel is the lights in a hospital room, where you are being born as another person, and you come out crying because you remember your past life and are upset about dying. Over time, as you grow up, you focus more on your new life, and the memories of your previous life fade away and become déjà vu. Life goes on, you are missed, and the world becomes a darker, smaller place for those who loved and enjoy your presence. Hopefully you left the world a better place, and those you were with learnt to be better people as you grew. Love and life is meaningless if we live forever. Only our legacy and memory endures, and I am fine with that. Like others have said, everything happens after we die. Time goes on. But if you're asking about what happens to each of us after we die as far as our consciousness is concerned, nothing. When life ends, we are no more. It'll be exactly the same as before we were born. Once our brain and body ceases function, that's the end of us. I do not fear death. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born, and had not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it. I low-key look forward to it as a nice long sleep after a long hard day. But the worst part is imagining the despair of the people who will miss me. That part really eats at me. Everything happens, life will continue on. You'll probably experience all versions of the afterlife. Alternative realities where you didn't die would probably branch off. Understand, the universe is infinite. It's hard to wrap one's head around, but imagine everything that can exist does exist at some point. Scientifically speaking, the law of conservation of energy says that energy is neither created nor destroyed. So, that being said, that energy of our consciousness must go somewhere. From the overwhelming evidence of the afterlife, there definitely is one. Now what it actually is, I can't say I know for sure. Something has to happen because energy cannot be created or destroyed. And I hope to God consciousness counts as energy, and from a memory standpoint, nothing, we all live on in someone else's memories. No one knows they are dead, and most people probably won't even know the end is imminent. Some may suffer and know something is wrong, but they may think it will pass or they will be rescued. Some may know they are dying and that seems scary. But once they pass, they don't know they have died. I'm a Christian and I think there's a lot of variables. Heaven, hell, some type of purgatory, turning into a divine entity such as a helper or angel, etc. And no, I don't think atheists, gay people, or those who practice other religions are going to hell. I believe evil goes to hell. I think you either remain as a spirit on earth and just roam as a ghost, get reincarnated and come back as a human, animal, insect, or you can start over and be birthed on another planet that sustains life and become whatever human, creature-like being that planet has. Interestingly enough, I just fell down a rabbit hole of clips from Long Island Medium. I have never had a reading, and I don't think anyone I know has ever had one either. I wouldn't necessarily, I am a skeptic, but if I ever got a reading I wouldn't know what to expect. I think in our in-between, we sign a contract. The contract is the new life we are about to endure. I believe I've seen some sort of Grim Reaper. It was in the middle of night. He was standing over me. He asked me a question. Mentally, I answered. He then left. We stay on this earth as ethereal forms, ghosts, but not to haunt the living. We stay as long as we want to see the aftermath of our death before heading into the light. What is after the light is unknown, but there is infinite time to think about it as a ghost. Everyone says it's a nothingness, but the fact that we can even conceptualize these kind of conversations leads me to believe there is something more. I think our spirits or souls will show us the next journey, something that we simply can't even comprehend. You cease to exist, may none. There is no concept of time for your non-alive substance. So if you happen to be consumed or become a part of a living system that is not self-aware yet, you become a part of their consciousness. The entirety of space, every star, element, natural force, and form of life was around for 13 billion years before I was born. I didn't know any of it because there wasn't a me to know. I have no reason to believe it will be different after I die. Human beings are energy, and energy cannot die, it can only be transferred. There are other worlds and other realms. This whole dark view of death is nothing more than a capitalist selling point. Science has already proven we cannot die. I think you get a choice. You can choose to try it again and get reincarnated, or you can decide to be done. If you decide to be done, you either go to heaven or hell. If you want to try it again, you'll slate it wiped clean, and you try again. I think there really is a great energy. For some reason, I feel like our consciousness is an expression or a part of that energy. I don't think that our comprehension can understand what happens when that energy goes back to the source. That your whole life was a lie, and you realize that the God you pray so much to him turns out to be yourself, and that you created all your life to avoid the deep feeling of loneliness and emptiness. We get sent into different realms, afterlife spaces and times, depending on the level of consciousness you acquired during your life on heart. I like to think death is only a beginning, or a transitory state, much like a dream. The fourth dimension, energy, is neither created nor destroyed. So, when I am cremated, I will create energy in heat form, but maybe, just maybe, a fourth dimension molecule appears, and we are all part of an alien situation or comedy.